This is the place to be. Hello and welcome to the famous, the legendary, the extraordinary Nürburgring. Welcome to the Truck Grand Prix of ADAC, and of course welcome to the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. The schedule is absolutely packed. We are ahead of qualifying number 2 at this race weekend. We are here at the 4th round. This is Lina van der Waals. I'm Christina Runn. We are so happy presenting for you here today, and we are standing here in a very, very important position, of course. We're waiting for the qualifying. Why is this so special?
Well, it's 4 races. Hello from my side again as well, of course. So it's 4 races for this weekend. And if you only would have one qualifying and someone is in the front, it more than less would mean that everyone who's behind would stick behind forever. So having a second qualifying, of course, opens up new chances. It has been quite rainy this morning now, like it's been drying up, which also means if someone maybe hates rain and loves sunshine, this person, mostly him, might be faster than he has been yesterday or beforehand.
We're starting with the qualifying, and then the first 10 qualified go to Super Pole, so got even more chance to better their timings. And this means this is quite now a phase of lots of tactics. You will see and monitor every time the lap time of the other contestants, and this is quite interesting to see how many tires you're going to spend on a fast lap. Right now they're lining up, and the leader of the pack, Norbert Kirsch, as they line up in championship order, is always the first. And he's very good at his time management also. And as you pointed out, we've got dry conditions right now. I don't see a black cloud, so I'm very optimistic that we will stay with these conditions. But unfortunately, the first race, there was red flagged after 9 laps, but it counted completely. So Chas Draker, please give us the updates of race number first race of this day.
Thank you very much, Christina. Yes, hello everybody. Chas Draycott here at the Nürburgring for the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And indeed, race 1 was heavily affected by rain. We started under yellow flag conditions with André Kurtim and Lucas Hahn on the front row of the grid. So what it meant was we did an entire lap behind the, well, not even behind the pace truck. So we had our usual green flag lap, then 1 lap under yellow flag conditions with no overtaking, and then the green flag wave, and everybody could get their elbows out and get on with it. And get on with it indeed is what Norbert Kirsch did. He started gaining place after place. Very beautiful move to get past Steffi Halm and André Kurtim, one of the absolute highlights of the race. But he was carrying a 10-second time penalty that would be added on at the end of the race based on overspeeding at the very start. Because of the weather conditions and the bridge down on the start-finish straight, the GPS signal can sometimes be scrambled in their sort of speedometers, effectively, the system that tracks the speed of the actual race trucks. But the conditions got worse and worse as the rain continued to come down. The fans still braved it out and enjoyed themselves, but the racing got more and more difficult for our drivers, and there were a number of them going off in a straight line down at turn 1. Plenty of drifting and great overtaking going on, though. There was so much fun throughout the pack. But it was Norbert Kirsch that opened up a colossal advantage by the time the red flag fell, which was when Heinrich Clementacker unfortunately went straight on at turn 1, which gave Norbert Kirsch the win ahead of Sascha Lenz and Steffi Halm, with Stefan Faas winning in the Motors Cup category. We're going to go straight back down, though, to Lina.
Yes, so they're still lining up, and I had a sneak peek because all of you might know esports and all of you might know how to drive a simulator, which might help to learn tracks and which also might help to learn how the truck might be feeling later on a racetrack. I heard that Norbert Kirsch also tried the simulator, and it was only 1 second behind his original time, sitting in for the first time. And Christina, you can tell she's not around because she has been running off to Stefan Faas's box, and she's trying out the simulator right now for you guys.
the simulation race here at the Nürburgring. That was really, really a lot of fun. And of course, the respect for the drivers do arise, as you can see, where to think, what to think, when to go. And excuse me, this was just driving. You need to check the setup, you need to check the tires, you talk to the mechanics, lots and lots of more that the race drivers do. So huge respect for all of that.
Well, thank you, Christina. I'm quite jealous, although I have to admit I really, really, really want to test ride a real truck on the racetrack. And I'm really hoping one day I will have a chance, maybe first being the co-pilot and then being the pilot after all. So, yeah, let's talk on chat about this fact later on. Jess, I think you're a racer as well, so let's go back over to you, hearing if you maybe also would like to race either the simulator or a real truck later on. Let us know.
Thank you very much, Lena. And yes, unfortunately, there's a reason I'm a commentator, and it's because I'm absolutely terrible behind the wheel. I started my commentary career within esports and sim racing, and then came over to do it in inverted commas, the real world. Chaz Dracot here in the commentary box with Jörg Hennig on the German stream and Fonzie Cebrian on the Spanish stream. But yes, indeed, I am definitely going to head back down to Stefan Faast's sort of awning and paddock place later. I'm not even sort of their spot in the paddock. Basically, I didn't even realise that the truck that was there was actually a simulator. So I'm certainly going to go and try my hand at that. There's a fantastic actual massive list of trucks available to be used on the sim platform Assetto Corsa. The guys have done a wonderful job of putting trucks into the game as a mod, as it's known, made by a third party, and they actually do a virtual version of the European Truck Racing Championship over winter, which I was commentating on as well, and real drivers took part in it as well. Mark Taylor, John Newell, Norbert Kish and Lucas Hahn, and even Sasha Lenz taking part in it as well. It really does get well accepted, and it's a great way for the drivers to train as well, because the simulators are so realistic in the modern day. And in terms of going out on a real truck as well, I had the absolute pleasure of joining Antonio Albacete for 3 laps of the Nürburgring on Thursday morning. Antonio and the team were fantastic at getting me in. I'll tell you what, it was a hell of an experience to go out there with someone as legendary as Antonio as well. Really meant a lot, and it was so much fun to go around this circuit. It's a huge challenge for the drivers, and one of the things I really picked up on was the fact that we see the trucks move around a lot mid-corner. You see a bit of drifting here and there. You see the back end stepping out, but when you are actually in the truck and you feel it, it moves around a lot more than it looks like it does. Honestly, there's constant twitching and moving around from the rear end. Because the front end has most of the weight over it, the rear end just gets swung around and holds on for the ride effectively. So it's really, really cool to see how much it moves about. Anyway, qualifying is now underway, and as you see, the drivers all eking their way out of the Mercedes arena. 16 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock, and there's no full speed laps done yet, let's say. They're just doing the initial laps to get warmed up and get cracking. It's much nicer than it was earlier. The sun has come out here at the Nürburgring. It's a lot drier than it was, so everybody is able to push at full chat now and not worry about the slippery conditions. There is Jochen Hahn just coming into the chicane, pushing very hard, and here's Iveco bouncing over the curb. Antonio Albacete also going for them. Just a little hop over the second curb there for the Spaniard as he heads towards the final corner. He's got Stefan Faast behind him, who comes off the back of a Promoters Cup victory in the second race of the weekend. This qualifying session will set us up for race 3 of the weekend, which will take place a little bit later on, just after 5 o'clock here locally in Germany. It's going to be the last racing action for me of the day anyway, in terms of the qualifying and obviously the truck racing. We've got the go and stop competition, the second one, a little bit later on at 7 p.m, which should be a lot of fun. That's going to be the race trucks this time instead of just the road-going trucks. But looking at the race trucks we have on our screen right now and the lap times, it's Norbert Kish clear by just over a second from Antonio Albacete. Jochen Hahn in third place, 1.2 seconds back, and then Jose Eduardo Rodriguez has gone fourth fastest. Then it's Mark Taylor, Jamie Anderson, Stefan Faast, Heinrich Clementecker, John Newell, and Erwin Klein-Nagelvoort putting a time on the board as well. Another time goes in though, and it's, I believe, Jamie Anderson going into fourth place on... Well, he's actually gone into fourth place on my graphic on the left-hand side. He's there twice by the look of it. There's Jamie. There you go. Now it's updated. He's gone down to 7th position as he's been overtaken. Andrei Kurzim and Sasha Lenz put their times on the board as well, going 4th and 5th respectively. inside the top 5 positions. Louis Rikwenko has put a time in to put him 11th. Steffi Halm hasn't done a representative fast time at the moment. She was a little bit further back in the pack, actually, so it looked like she was just waiting to try and get some clean air. So we'll see where Steffi ends up when her time comes through on the board. Fastest in the Promoters' Cup at the moment is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, as he continues to do an amazing job at the top of the Promoters' Cup Championship. And it will be the case now that a few drivers will come into the pit lane, as Steffi Halm there puts a time on the board that's 1 minute and 20 seconds off Norbert Kish. Interesting. I'm not sure if she's had a spin or an incident or something, but she might have just had a very slow outlap just to work on something on the truck, make sure everything's all running perfectly. And now she'll push on to set a time. Through the Mercedes arena she goes. Look at the way that the trucks move around here. It's fantastic to watch. The way that they lean one way, then the other, just about skimming the floor and then leaning the other way. You can see the entire cab, all of the bodywork rolls the other way. The chassis rails of these trucks are basically just two straight girders in the middle. It's just like two massive pieces of metal that form the spine of the truck. The engine is mounted between them, and then the rest of the truck and then the cab is built around the chassis rails, and the cab is placed on top, almost like one piece, like they build it separately and then just plonk it on top. But if you do get the chance to see these racing trucks, or racing trucks of this specification up close, I urge you to just go and study them for a little bit. Just go and properly look at the finer details. You know, everybody goes to see the size of the turbochargers and the engines, but just look at the finer workings. Every single bolt on these things is still colossal, and just the way that everything is fixed and beautifully designed and welded together, the shape of them is really interesting. At the very start of the season, I was chatting to Csaba Bako from Revesh Racing and Sasha Lenz as well, as they discussed Norbert Kish's truck. His current truck, Baloo, is one of Sasha Lenz's old trucks that Sasha built, and he was telling us about some of the funny finer details that he'd looked at, where he might have not done a weld quite right, or he spent a long time trying to get a specific angle as part of the truck's frame and the chassis, and he was taking the mick out of his own welding. But honestly, it was a beautifully put together piece of kit. Especially to the untrained eye like mine, it looked fantastic. But it's just all about appreciating the finer details of these trucks. They may be huge machines that are real beasts, but underneath they are just as fickle and fragile as any race car sometimes, because they are so meticulously put together and on fine margins. Speaking of fine margins, actually, Steffi Halm has just gone into 6th place, only 34 thousandths of a second behind Sasha Lenz. It's very, very close within the top 6 positions, or at least from Albacete down to Steffi Halm, 2nd down to 6th. Is Mark Taylor, currently 9th at the moment. Only a couple of, well, barely even a 10th ahead of the drivers behind him, but he now drops down a little bit. As up there goes Stefan Faas into 7th place. Stefan's going really well so far this weekend. He's having a good run of it. And we're going to go back out into the pit lane, and we're going to speak to Antonio Albacete with Lena.
Yes, yesterday he was quite fast, won 3rd place. So Antonio, are you back to get more trophies today?
Well, I hope, you know, I mean, it's very close. Kiss is very, very fast, but yeah, of course, I will try to fight with Jochen, Sacha, Anderson, and see if I can get at least 2nd place in time practice. But as I tell you, it's going to be very tough.
So are you more the rain person or the sun person? Because it's been quite rainy this morning.
Yeah, I mean, this morning was very difficult on the rain, you know, and now everything is dry, so it's going to be totally different. I don't know if it will rain for the race later on, but at the moment it's totally different than this morning.
So you're Spanish, so I think you will be fast in the sunshine now. Go kick ass. I know he's already observing the times of the other people, so I'll let them work back here. We'll close this one. It's very important for safety. Just back to you.
Thanks very much, Lena. Tim Frost just hopping into shot there from T-Sport Burnau. You guys doing a great job again so far this weekend. After the podium earlier on for Antonio Albacete in the weekend, he's going to be hoping for more of them. He appeared on what is now going to be the Drive to the Podium podcast, as we have here at the Nürburgring, as they have to catch a ride in a cab. And this is Stefan Faas, who will be kind of happy with 9th place at the moment, but Mark Taylor has hopped back in front of him by just 0.08 of a second. Steffi Helm not too far ahead of them either. It's very close now at the top of the Promoters' Cup, though. Would you look at that? There's barely 0.2 of a second between 4 of them. It's really, really tight. As here is Erwin Klein-Nagelvoort, currently in 15th place in truck number 15. Another one of our 15 trucks that is powered by 100% renewable HVO diesel. That's not quite so clean as the fuel itself, unfortunately, by Erwin, as he really pushes the Scania to the limit and slides sideways out of the chicane. Around the final corner he goes, just missing the penalty marker, using all of the road, and that's so important in these things. There you go, there is the moment where he went off, just piling on the power on the exit. And it's a swooping corner, really, out of the chicane. Usually, you'd go into it imagining that it is literally just left, right, and then it's a perfect straight line. But the exit and the edge of the circuit actually curves around at that point of the track. So drivers have to sort of get on the power early and follow that curve around. It's not easy to do, though, hence the fact that Erwin just showed us what happens when it goes even just the slightest bit wrong there. But hopefully, if he can get on another fast lap, he can try and get himself into Superpole, which is the second part of our qualifying session. It's just an extra 10-minute part of it, where the drivers get to set their top 10 times. We're going to go back down into the pit lane, though, because Sasha Lenz is with Christina.
Yes, we've seen purple rain this morning, but right now it's sunshine. Sasha Lenz, right now on P number 5. Are you waiting for a Superpole for another fast lap?
Yeah, for sure. We have a qualifying now. It's a little bit strange, you know. In the morning we drive a race, and now we have a qualifying, so it's a little bit quickly. But yeah, it's a new for us all. Von daher, it's all good.
Did you manage to change a little bit the setup and everything in this short amount of time after, as you said, the race ahead of qualifying?
Yeah, it's a first time, you know, and yeah, it's a little bit different. But I hope we have now a good Superpole for later a good race.
Thank you very much. So it's really a new beginning for everyone right now.
Yeah, indeed. They've just got to completely reset everything that they've had go on so far this weekend and treat this as if it's the usual Sunday that we would have when we have the second qualifying and, of course, the next race. Or we'd have, obviously, qualifying and 2 races. We have the same amount today, but it's obviously a bit of a different kettle of fish, having race 2 at the start of today, qualifying, and then race 3. It's a very interesting order to have things go in, but everybody's adapting very well, I have to say. I didn't think that it would make that much of a difference, personally, when I saw the schedule and the timetable, but it really does actually change everybody's mindset as the day goes on, because it depends on whereabouts you get most tired in the day. It sounds very basic, but if you think about it, if you wake up in the morning as a driver and you have to do qualifying first off, which is the most regular way to go about it, then you would obviously be very, very quick straight away because you're nice and refreshed. We're going to go back down to Christina and Lena, though, because apparently they found something that they want to show us.
Yeah, I know normally you have a lucky charm inside with you, but obviously Sasha found something to carry on the outside, on the wiper. Actually, I'm really dying. Like, would you do such a thing? I'm like, why?
That's table tennis, but it's obviously that because inside there's the race painting, so he needs to stop right now. And if it turns green, if somebody takes this table tennis,
I will ask him quickly. Yeah. I'm dying to know. Sasha, why do you have a beta in your wiper? Why do you have this one in your wiper?
It's normal that I know that I cannot drive in this moment.
Ah, I see. So it's stopping you. I see. Okay. So that's actually a very smart thing to do. It has a red side and has a green side. So right now you're seeing the red one.
Yeah, and we pass the ball over to you right now, Chaz. Take it.
Take the green one. Take the green one.
I absolutely will. Thank you very much. It's quite funny, actually, because the microphone icon that I use on the software that we stream from is either a bright red thing or a bright green thing. So we're definitely going for the green one right now. There is the bright red thing, though, which is Norbert Kisch's machine, and he is ready to go also with a bat in his windscreen. But he's going to be ready to go for Superpole a little bit later. He's remaining very focused right now on certainly setting a good time at the front of the pack, as he usually is. But just coming back to my point a moment ago about the sort of structure of the weekend, if you think about being all refreshed and ready to go in the morning of a race day, that's when you need fast times in. And then later on in the day, when you're a bit more tired, that's when it can set in with fatigue and you have to worry about the racing itself and obviously how your mindset is. We're going to go back down to Christina, though, because she has now found Andre Kursim.
Yes, I found him, and normally he's the rain god, of course, of the track. So did you make a rain dance that it will come back again?
For the moment, I'm very happy that the rain is gone. The first race was very difficult, I think, for all drivers, and now we are happy. Let's try, and hopefully it will do it again in Championship Race 3.
So he's got a cell phone in his hand. It's not because he's texting, because he's also monitoring, of course, the lap time on everybody. You're right now on P5, I think. So what are you waiting for? How are your tactics?
Yes, I think we are safe now. And at the Super Bowl, hopefully we can do it again. Maybe one position in front of P4. And yes, we will see.
Thank you very much. It's the time management also saving the tires up for good and better days.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to make sure you get the most out of those tyres and don't wear them out unnecessarily. There would be no point staying further out in a session like this if you weren't in safety. And to be fair, Lucas Hahn, there you go, bang on cue, is still on the circuit right now because he's not quite in the safest of spaces. He's 9th at the moment with only a couple of hundredths of a second back to Mark Taylor in 10th place. Louis Requenco is 12th. He's just crossed the line there to try and improve. But looking at the lap time, he just did basically a slow lap to wind up for a fast one now. So he's going to push on here to set a quicker time. Hard on the brakes in turn one, really leaning into the corner. You can see the front left bodywork of the truck just skimming the floor slightly. It's an incredible feeling, though, when the truck dips down into that part of the hairpin. Antonio was really cutting the inside of it the other day, and there was a definite hop into the air for just a moment, and that front right wheel doesn't really come clattering down as you would expect, actually. It's a very soft landing where it's quite a smooth part of the circuit. The hill isn't very steep, but it just drops away in a way that if they've got stiff enough suspension, then obviously the wheel will be hoisted up into the air. But Louis Requenco in this gorgeous number 64 Iveco, I think it's one of the prettiest trucks on the grid. It may not be covered in sponsors and loads of stickers and logos, but I think the fact that it's such a clean design just really works for it. It shows off the fantastic bodywork of the Iveco S-Way. Louis is really pushing this machine as well, though. You can see him sliding it out of the hairpin down at turn 5 in towards 6 and 7. Makes it look nice and easy. Again, just running right to the edge of the circuit, but still not going on the gravel.
Ja, ganz genau. Diesmal nicht auf der Suche nach Fahrern, sondern
And then
nach den
up
Kollegen.
towards the chicane again, 100 miles an hour there. I was watching some of the onboard footage earlier on where you can see the drivers' dashboards obviously showing the speed that they're doing. It's remarkable how quickly they come off the gas and react to being at nearly 160 kilometers an hour. It only shows 1 decimal point as well on the dashboard, and there's been so many opportunities for drivers to just skip over that slightly, but they are constantly at 159 point something. It's never really dropping even below 159. It's mad how accurate they are, and obviously how well the drivers manage that speed. Let's see what Louis Requenco can do then. He's not improved. He was literally a few thousandths of a second off his best time on that lap. His best is 157.464, and he's just 0.478. The man at the top, though, that they're all trying to beat is, of course, Norbert Kisch, and he's down there with Christina.
Yeah, there was a famous movie, 60 Seconds. We got 60 seconds for the interview because you're out on the Super Bowl. How did you use the time in between the race and right now qualifying to get everything set up?
Obviously we don't have to use the tires, so we stay here in the pits, chilling, cooling the tires, cooling the track, and waiting for Super Bowl.
Thank you very much. So cooling the tires, that's the theme.
Yep, absolutely. Almost go time for Norbert Kisch to head into Super Pole. As you see on the left-hand side of your screen there, the top 10 qualifiers are the ones that will go through. Mark Taylor looking like he's going to make it into Super Pole again, unless we see another improvement by any of the drivers behind. Everybody from 9th position down is still out there on the circuit. Lucas Hahn has gone up into 5th position. Great job by Lucas to lead the Promoters' Cup in this qualifying session. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Mark Taylor joining him in Super Pole as it stands. But let's see what Louis Requenco can do. He's pushing on as best he can. Hard into the chicane on the brakes. You see the truck dip down, but they're really, really smooth on the brakes, these drivers. Heinrich Clementecker and John Newell actually right together on the circuit right now. It's not the race boys. John Newell crosses the line. So too does Heinrich Clement Hecker. Let's have a look at the lap times. Doesn't look like an improvement by either of them. 2 minutes, 0.2 by John Newell that time. Hecker did a 1:58.1. His best is a 1:57.7. And I'm pretty sure that now they've crossed the line, that is that for their sessions. Erwin Klein-Nagelvoort finishing ahead of John Newell on that one. He was saying that the earlier race was very tricky, was John? And obviously with the suspension failure they had yesterday, it'll definitely knock your confidence as a driver, not in the team or the vehicle itself, but when you have a failure or have something like that go wrong, you would just be feeling every little vibration, every tiny knock that is coming from the underside of the truck, and just hoping that it's not something that's gone wrong. It's the same when it happens on your road car as well. If you ever have a failure or anything with your road car, you're always going to worry that it's going to happen again. And we're going to go back down to Lena, who's still down there, catching the action from up close.
Yeah, I mean, there's much more when it comes to racing than only a race car and a race car driver. There's a team, but there's also scrutineering. And this is Constanze Metzner, and she's one of the female scrutineers, the only one actually I met so far. So I was quite interested. Where do you come from? Like, what's your actual field of motorsports, and what made you come to truck racing? Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you. Good to have you here on the other side of the track. What made me in contact with motorsports, actually it was hovercraft racing, because my brother was racing since younger days and I was racing. And then I started with US cars and then drag racing, of course. So I'm chief scrutineer for drag racing in Germany, and also for the FIA technical delegate for drag racing in the European Championship. And at the beginning of last year, Franz Steilberg, who is my boss actually here, he asked me, Connie, what about truck racing? We need some support, and I have the driving license and everything because I grew up on the truck already, so I'm used to those machines. And I was like, yeah, that would be the only circuit racing I'm interested in.
So how quickly did you dive into also the technical parts, and what are you exactly observing right now as the qualifying is running to be pulling out the boys mainly?
All right. I made my license in 2016, and since 3 years right now I'm working for the FIA. We are checking the safety standards so that the trucks and the drivers are safe. This is the main important thing. But also the performance parts. Everything has to comply with the rules to make sure those guys are safe out there and that we have a fair level of performance.
All right, so we have to jump on the side as the first trucks are coming in. So very quickly, back to you for last time, because I think you have to go work now.
Yeah, actually our first car we have to check. Yeah.
So I let you go do your work because the race is about to start. Super, okay, Chaz, it's so loud. Back to you, I can't hear.
Thank you, Lena. Fantastic to speak to Connie there. Connie is an absolute star of the paddock. She's really lovely and a great, great woman. She just loves her job, very enthusiastic. But hovercraft racing, now that is awesome. Hovercraft racing is something I've never watched before, but I imagine is absolutely bonkers. So there's my evening sorted. I'm going to be certainly researching that and looking into that. Drag racing as well, you know, a very exciting form of motorsport. Some people say it's only driving in a straight line, but some of the figures and statistics in drag racing, I mean, they're similar to what we have here in the European Truck Racing Championship. Some of the numbers are just ridiculous. You know, our trucks are 1,200 horsepower, 6,000 Newton meters of torque. They do 20 to 100 miles an hour as quickly as a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and they weigh 5.3 tons, for crying out loud. It's just ridiculous. But even in drag racing, I mean, you can get machines upwards of 8,000 horsepower, 0 to 100 miles an hour in a second, and some top fuel dragsters over in the United States do over 400 miles an hour over a quarter mile. It is balmy, balmy motorsports. But, of course, Connie's been brought up with the right ones, that's for sure, and she's here with us in the paddock for the European Truck Racing Championship, and it's great to have her and the FIA support here as well. They always get involved with the antics and the fun as well. And Franz Steilberg, her boss, as she mentioned, also a really good laugh and part of the team. So, Super Pole, everybody. 10 minutes of qualifying, basically the second part to this qualifying session. The top 10 drivers from the session that just finished will now go out in the order that they finished in, and they will try to set a best time to try and get themselves a position, I should say, cemented within the top 10. So the last session Basically, everybody in the entire field went out, and only those that were now outside of the top 10 are those that have had their times completely recorded, and that's it. These drivers now have to do it all again and sort of reshuffle that top 10. And obviously, Norbert Kish will be the one leading the way. He's got Antonio Albacete behind him, then Jochen Hahn, Jamie Anderson, Steffi Halm as well. I think Sasha Lenz has actually sort of backed off and gone out a little bit later just to try and get a bit more clear track in front of him, actually. So wise decision at the end of the day. He doesn't need to let anybody pass to do that. There'll be no pressure from anybody behind. But this initial lap is just to make sure they've got temperature in the brakes, temperature in the tyres as well. The truck is behaving how they want it to. And then everyone will leave a bit of a gap, make sure there's good space around them so that if they're on a fast lap and the person in front makes a mistake, or if they're quicker than them, they don't catch up to them too quickly. And obviously have to back out of a fast lap if it's a good one. It's all about finding the right track space here. And with only 10 trucks on track in a session like this, it can be a lot easier to find that space than in other situations. But as you'll see, 10 minutes is not long at all for these drivers to get it right around here and to obviously set decent enough lap times, because we are already just one sort of warm-up lap down and we are already within less than 8 minutes to go. So they will only really get sort of 2 or 3 laps out of this session at most. And a lot of the time these trucks take a fast lap and then they'll take another slow lap to then get wound up again before going on to another. Norbert Kish across the line then in Baloo. A gorgeous red MAN with the Hungarian tricolour on the wing mirrors. Looks oh so cool. They've got this sort of black section over the rear end of it as well for this season on this updated livery. It looks better and better every year, this machine. And it goes well as well. That's safe to say. Look at the way that it moves through the Mercedes arena. It just still obviously has the body roll of the truck because that's just natural in this sort of racing. Watch how it just dives down on the brakes. But the actual platform of it, if you look at the wheels themselves instead of the bodywork, they just look so flat everywhere. It's completely planted to the ground. And Norby and the team have worked so hard to get it set up properly, and obviously it's worked for a long time now. They're a seemingly unstoppable force at the moment in reverse racing when it comes to outright pace. But the drivers behind are consistently getting faster and faster and catching up bit by bit. The competition is always healthy between these guys, everybody on the grid. Just out the window now, I can hear a number of them going through and out of the Mercedes-Benz arena. You can hear the turbochargers chirping away as they get on and off the throttle, go up through the gears. Norby was a little bit wide of the right-hander there. But it doesn't seem to have harmed him too much. Antonio Albacete now chasing him down. Flying up towards the chicane. They get to 160 kilometers an hour up there. And it's interesting to see them manage the speed up there, actually, because to begin with, you're going downhill. So obviously it's easier to overspeed. So you'd be on a completely different amount of throttle than when you're then suddenly going up the hill again. So you have to start reapplying the throttle. And that's one of the art forms of truck racing, really. It's not all about just being flat out. You have to hold it as close as you can to a certain speed without going over it, but also take into consideration the way that the track moves as well, up or down. It's remarkable. Times coming through then, 1:54.060 for Norbert Kish. Antonio Albacete goes second fastest. Jochen Hahn goes third with a 1:56.087. Then it's Jamie Anderson with a 1:56.902. Steffi Halm goes third fastest, just a couple of thousandths ahead of both of them, but 2 seconds off Norbert Kish. Next up is Lucas Hahn, who goes third fastest. And we're going to go back down to Christina, who's found somebody else to have a chat with.
Yes, it's Luis Urcuenco. Qué grande es la alegría competir aquí en el famoso Nürburgring.
Bueno, la verdad es que sí, es un circuito histórico, es de mucha competición, de mucha historia y de mucho, como le decimos en España, de mucho pedigrí, ¿no? De la competición, sí.
So he said this is quite an historic track, so it's absolutely, yeah, it's gorgeous to drive here because you can feel the sentiment, you can feel everything, the historic depth of this track here at the Nürburgring. ¿Cuáles son los problemas que tienes en la
Bueno, creemos que tenemos el camión no muy bien equilibrado de suspensión. Creo que vamos muy duros en una parte, no sabemos si es la delantera o la trasera, y entonces no compensamos bien el camión. La frenada no puedo frenar bien, si freno muy tarde me voy, y si freno antes pierdo bastante tiempo. Entonces, bueno, tenemos una pelea grande ahí con el camión.
Thank you very much. Gracias. Hasta. So he said, yeah, he's got quite some problems with the suspension because he does not know where to accelerate. The point is missing. If he tries to get hard on the brakes or accelerate too early, then he might not stop well enough or get going well enough. And if he's too late, obviously, then he's too late. So they need to have quite a lot of work right now. He's there with his technical chiefs right now having a chat.
Thank you very much, Christina. Yeah, interesting to see that Louis, unfortunately, not quite having the best of times with the truck at the moment. But that's the thing. The suspension components are so important in truck racing because of how much these things move around. They've got a lot of body language to show off and a lot of weight to move around. So the way that they lean into corners, the way that they dive nose first onto the brakes, is such an important part of how these things behave. So if you've got one tiny issue with your suspension, it is going to be a nightmare to deal with in all aspects of the truck, so whether you are braking or accelerating. So unfortunately, Louis Requenco not having the best of times with it. We hope it gets better for him because he's a fantastic guy to have around in the championship. They all are, but Louis is a real character, and he's never say die attitude is always entertaining. As Jochen Hahn, speaking of never say die attitudes, Jochen, a real determined man. 6th place at the moment, though. He's obviously hoping to improve on that one right now. Into the Mercedes arena once more, hard on the brakes. Very difficult to get turn 3 right because it's downhill into a braking zone. Then all of a sudden, when it levels out slightly at the apex, you've got a lot more performance than you had just a moment ago. So the way that the truck behaves mid-corner is very unpredictable at times based on the speed that you're going in at. And through turn 5, down the hill, there's a little dip there as they go from one end of the circuit to the other very quickly without going down to the Dunlop Kera. Steffi Halm sat behind as well in 5th position, trying to improve on her lap time. Norbert Kish has gone into the pits as Jose Eduardo Rodriguez has had a time deleted, or will have a time deleted in just a moment, for... I think it was for track limits or overspeeding, sorry. I was just trying to look at the times then, and it's completely gone past me. But Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, unfortunately, having a time deleted. Here's Jochen into the chicane, really pushing it over there. You can see the little puff of smoke that comes out. Like we say, it's very, very minimal that these machines have any smoke or any emissions that are visible at all. But just as they change up through the gears, as the turbocharger just expels what it can very quickly, you can hear them chirping away. You can hear that noise as the turbocharger opens the wastegate. And Jochen Hahn improves, goes 4th fastest, puts himself on the 2nd row of the grid. Steffi Halm also improves and puts herself ahead of Jamie Anderson. Lucas Hahn in 7th position. He'll be pretty happy with that. Highest placed driver in the Promoters' Cup at the moment. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Mark Taylor in there as well. Thank you to my colleague Alice Holloway that has, even all the way from Rome, where she's working on a separate championship this weekend, has managed to still outdo me and notice that it was for overspeeding. Thank you very much, Alice. Sasha Lenz across the line, and he is 2nd fastest ahead of Antonio Albacete now. Don't think Mark Taylor improved on that lap. No, he was just 1/10 of a second off, unfortunately. So it doesn't quite beat his time. Well, Jochen Hahn there, the main improvement, going up into 4th place. And he was running the number 4 last season, actually, was Jochen Hahn. As part of the 2022 season, obviously running his finishing position from 2021. He finished 4th in the championship, and that was the first time he's finished lower than 3rd in the championship in 10 years. It just shows you how consistent and how fast Jochen is. Obviously, 6 championships to his name. He's been in the championship for 24 years now. He's won titles in 2011, 12, 13, 16, 18, and 19. A very unstoppable force at times is Jochen. Lovely guy as well, though. Great innovator of the championship. Obviously, they've unveiled their electric racing e-truck, the Iveco e-truck, this weekend. They were hoping to get it out on the circuit, but unfortunately a software update is needed for it to be able to run at max capacity and obviously get running safely. So I'm afraid they've had to hold off on doing that for now, but we look forward to when they can bring it out on circuit and display it to us. Looks like everybody's done with their laps now as the clock ticks down to 0. And the session comes to a close with Norbert Kish at the top of the pile. A second clear of Sasha Lenz. Antonio Albacete 1.1 seconds back. Jochen Hahn 1.4. Steffi Halm, Jamie Anderson, Lucas Hahn, Andre Kurzim, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, and then Mark Taylor in 12th position. 12th? 10th position. It's been a long day, everybody. But once again, Norby on pole. That's his 8th pole position of the season. He took his 10th race victory just earlier today, which would have been his 11th appearance on the podium for 2023. And he continues a 100% record of pole positions here at the Nürburgring. And in this championship, he actually didn't get a pole position at the Nürburgring last season because of a black smoke infringement. He was told to come into the pits and get it sorted. And by the time they came back out, he wasn't able to set a relevant lap time, unfortunately. So it was Jochen Hahn that got pole and then went on to win the race. But no such dramas this time round for Norbert Kish. We're going to go back down to Lena, though, who's got more to say for us.
Yeah, it's Lena and Christina, and I was actually trying to sneak together with her towards the stand, and I was like, I really want to have you have a glimpse of what's going on backstage as well, because there's such a good mood. People are happy, there are bands playing, so what more can you ask for? And for everyone who loves trucks, look at that. I mean, normally there's race cars and trucks, and right now there are trucks and trucks. Trucks bringing trucks for the truck racing, so how much more truck can it be?
We need to save our cameraman because Steffi Halm is already passing by because Super Pole is over, as you heard from Chess Draker. Norbert Kish is the Super Pole leader. And the band has stopped also. They need to take all the instruments up to side. This is it. Here in the paddock, you never know what truck will come around. But it's so great to see all the fans here. It's
Come
really
with
packed
us.
this
Maybe
weekend.
we can make them play one more song for you guys out there, because we really would like to have one more interview. But as the trucks are coming out now, it takes one more second. So I will run over and ask if they can play one more song. Unfortunately, I cannot really communicate with you guys out there right now. Otherwise, you could make a wish. But I think they have something on the list that they might be playing on. So let's see. The trucks are coming back. The band is playing. Guys, can you play one more song for us, please? We're on live stream right now. Just one more song, please. Now. Könnt ihr noch wir sind live hier auf Sendung mit. One more song, please. Quickly. Go, 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 go. One more song. Okay, so there's the song coming exclusively for you out there. So you can have a party time as well.
Körny, du sagst wie lange, dann gehen wir langsam wieder zurück zu...
Fantastic fun down there in the paddock then at the Nürburgring. Lena, the great motivator of the brass band there in front of the Tank Pool 24 guys. Awesome stuff. So our top three then from that session, Norbert Kish, Sasha Lenz and Antonio Albacete, with Jochen Hahn in 4th position. A very busy session though, with plenty of times changing around and people doing their outright best in Super Pole. Here's the results then of qualifying 2 for the weekend, setting us up for race 3, which will happen just after 5 p.m. local time today. Norbert Kish on pole position once again, and that is his 8th position at the front this season. Sascha Lenz finishes the session in 2nd ahead of Antonio Albacete, who will join Jochen Hahn, the old boys as Jochen calls them, on the 2nd row. Steffi Halm will line up 5th, and then we have Jamie Anderson, the highest placed Brit, in 6th position. Lucas Hahn and Andre Kurzim are next up in 7th and 8th, with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez 9th, Mark Taylor in 10th position, 3 seconds off the top spot, but still happy to be into Superpole. Stefan Faas is 11th after his Promoters Cup win earlier today. Louis Requenco is in 12th, with Heinrich Clementecker 13th, Erwin Klein-Nagelvor in 14th, and John Newell in 15th place. Once again, hoping to look forward to going forward in the race. He certainly was happy with the fact that he gained those positions earlier, especially with the tricky conditions. It's absolutely not easy at all. I'm going to say goodbye for now. I've been Chaz Draycott here for the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And let's hand back down to the ladies in the paddock, shall we?
Thank you very much, Chaz. It's not over until the two ladies sing a song. No, it's not. We do an interview with Jamie Anderson. Of course, we want to talk also about yesterday. It was difficult for you because we had the situation during race time when Norbert Kish was in the lead, Sascha Lenz was at your side, and we saw you had some problems with braking. And then, of course, finally you touched Sascha Lenz. So what was the situation?
Yeah, we had a lock-up going into the far hairpin corner. And you know, with a truck, once it's locked up, you know, you can't stop the momentum. So it was unfortunate, and it happened. But luckily, that both of us got back on the track, and there wasn't severe losses. You know, and that's what happens in racing. Sometimes you get there, and it's easy for everyone to say, "Well, we shouldn't have been in that situation," but the situation was there, and we was on all the rubber from the GT3 cars, and with that, we just had the back axle start locking up, and the rest was it.
And obviously you two are teammates because also you're not competing for all the classes, the chrome and the Titan classes, but also there's a team membership in between you two. Does that have any influence?
No, definitely not. You know, we both race very fair with one another. And even after the race, you know, we spoke to one another, and it is what it is. You know, if he was in that situation, it would be the same for both of us. We've got that relationship, and he could see it wasn't on purpose. It was a sheer thing that could happen to anybody.
It is what it is. Shout out to Barbara watching us right now on a live stream. So, of course, you're right now on P number 5. Interesting position, interesting track, such an historic track, as Luis Requenco pointed out. What does that mean for you competing here at Nürburgring?
Really, I suppose the track and the atmosphere with everybody here. You know, it's a brilliant atmosphere for the championship, for everybody watching, and the track on its own is memorable. You know, for many years it's been around and within truck racing, and it's quite good to be able to have the history and us actually race here.
So we want to see the racing, of course, starting soon at 5:35. Thank you very much, Jamie Anderson. Have a good time in between.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lots to do, of course, for us. And we do have a small break also, us two, Line van der Maas and me, Christina Run. Thank you very much for watching. 5:35. Then we're going to be back here, aren't we?
And it's racing time, finally again. See you in a bit.